Hi, I'm Lynda Tarras. Lately, I seem to be having many conversations about productivity. It seems that people are struggling with the fact that the world has just thrown them a massive curveball that leaves them feeling less than productive and, frankly, feeling a little guilty about it. So I began wondering, what is behind this worry about productivity? And how do we as leaders keep an appropriate level of productivity alive in our organizations, while at the same time we're balancing the need to support others who are so obviously struggling with it? The first problem that I run into when I talk to people about productivity is that we don't all have a common definition for productivity, and we don't all stop to think about it very much. Many of the people that I work with live very busy lives, but they don't necessarily live efficient or effective lives, which is what brings them to me in the first place. When we start to unpack that, we realize that there are many things consuming our days that are not intentional, that don't really add value. And we have to start to look at that if we're going to feel more productive. Secondly, there's a group of people that are so used to running fast that they are uncomfortable slowing down. And because the world is making it practically impossible for people to run at the pace they are used to running, they feel offside. Their sense of belonging in the world is threatened, which can create all the same biological reactions that we'd feel if we just discovered we'd left the stove on and we'd finished using it an hour ago. Nothing bad has actually happened, but we feel as if it absolutely could. This creates anxiety, which needs to be fed, which might explain the frequency of which I hear about home improvement projects or the gazillion face masks that are being produced on our home sewing machines right now. And finally, there is the practical reality that getting anything done in this context, whether it be grocery shopping, feeding, educating your children, working remotely with your teammates, everything is making our lives a little bit more difficult right now, a little more complicated. Every leader I work with understands this, and most are tempering their expectations very vocally and actively about how much can actually be accomplished in this context. And yet, productivity remains an issue that needs to be managed in organizations. Productivity, commonly defined as the ratio between output and input volumes, is arguably even more important right now when money is tight, people are stressed, and organizations are struggling to thrive and even survive in some cases. So what do we as leaders need to do? As a starting point, here are 3 ideas. Number 1, involve the team. I talked in one of my previous videos about how involving the team in planning can manage stress and focus energy in the organization. I'm a big proponent of lean and other process improvement technologies that help teams and organizations reduce waste. Many organizations where I've worked have realized real benefits where teams have come together to streamline service delivery processes and create better outcomes. These events have results not only in reduced costs, but also in better workplaces for the people who work there. Some will argue that measurement of inputs and outputs isn't always easily counted. I agree, particularly when it comes to knowledge work or even leadership. We're looking to measure value and quality, which can feel a little more subjective or intangible. Still, there are a number of different tools and strategies that can be used to open up conversations and to create a better shared understanding of not only where we're going, but what are the current roadblocks to progress And what strategies are we going to use that are available to us to address these issues? The second thing I would suggest is focus on positive leadership. There is growing research that demonstrates an undeniable link between positive leadership practices and indicators of organizational effectiveness and success. These positive leadership behaviors make a difference. They include things like communicating a strong sense of purpose, avoiding blame, treating mistakes as opportunities for learning, and providing support for others in this time, being kind and empathetic when people are currently struggling. These are the things that will engage your employees. And quite simply, positively engaged employees are more willing to offer discretionary effort and achieve better results for your organization. The third thing I would say is we need to nurture the right cultures. After I had been an executive for a few years, I began to notice how people at times would avoid inviting me into events or into conversations, often because they assumed I was too busy. I'd meet people in the hallways or on the street and they'd make a comment like, "Oh, you must be so busy." In response to a simple "Hi, how are you?" I would get from them, "I'm so busy." Like many organizations, busy had become our badge of honor. It seemed that people believed that if they were busy, they would be valued. They were somehow more important and worthy of respect. Actually, the more we're caught up in busy, the harder it is to actually get the results we want to achieve. So I realized that as a leader, I needed to nurture a culture that would focus less on busy and process and more on outcome and results. I began to talk about how it was essential that we assessed every step to ensure it added value and that the outcome was of importance. I also talked about the importance of downtime and nurturing creativity and focus. I now share very freely what I call my rest and digest philosophy as a serious tool to invite space. It creates insight, it invites creativity, and it allows solutions to dawn on us in completely unrelated situations to the problem to be solved, like when we're in the shower or we're hiking in the forest. Interesting how that happens, isn't it? Things just come to us in these moments. Writer Dillard said, "How we spend our days is, of course, how we spend our lives." I'm watching with interest across the world right now to witness how people are spending their lives and how they're beginning to understand this whole notion of productivity, maybe through a new lens. I was reading an article the other day that suggested that people are beginning to second guess the effort and commitment that they've made to their working lives. It's true in these times, particularly when people are furloughed or laid off, that's a natural reaction. I hope that people aren't questioning the engagement and commitment they're making to the world, though. I do hope that we remember that it is that engagement and commitment that really makes a difference in our working organizations and in our lives. But I do hope that people are thinking differently about productivity and what we may need to do to create those great outcomes for ourselves. See you next time.